Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We know it has been quite a while. It's been a busy semester. We've had a lot going on, and, with the New York Knicks playing a lot, and we've been trying to catch up on everything as much as we can, but we're now towards that final point of the semester and able to fill in this one final episode of Season 3. It's Episode 5 of Empire State Hoops. I'm your host, Adam Rothschild, and joining me for the final time on Empire State Hoops is Matt Vargo. And today's episode of Empire State Hoops has been powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. So, 20 games in for the New York Knicks. We are just approaching the month of December. Hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. Yep. And the holiday season is now in full swing officially. So, starting things off, the Knicks, they're 12-8 through the first 20 games with the duo led by Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony-Towns. What have you noticed so far about how successful it's been and the ups and downs they've gone through? Because they have gone through a lot of that, adjusting to a new roster and, a weak bench that they've been trying to improve. And we know that this team is still capable of that. And with a tough Eastern Conference, of course, with the juggernauts that are up there with Boston, Cleveland, and Milwaukee and Philadelphia. What do you think the Knicks have to improve upon as the second half of the season is not too far away?
Well, they still got to build more cohesion and rhythm with the new core that they have. It's been a lot better than what it was at the start of the season. Cat's been playing a lot better. He's got a career high in rebounds, I believe. Brunson's been Brunson. Mikal's been kind of disappointing, but he did play well after the Hornets game, as we were talking about before we started recording. The overall thing I would say is that they still have a knack for these, what the heck kind of losses, like losing to the Jazz by 15 in Utah is something that you don't really want to see. Also losing to the Mavericks by 15. I know the Mavericks were in the finals last year, but Dallas has not been as strong as we would have thought they were. Now, they're on a little bit of a winning streak, but at the time it was kind of like, what the heck? And, yeah, only beating the Hornets by 1 point. I get the Hornets are a little bit friskier than we would have thought, but overall, they still got the win, though. I think, yeah, they just got to iron out these kind of weird kinks that they're having. There's a lot of weird losses, and there has been some impressive wins, don't get me wrong. Like, blowing out the Nuggets in their building was something I don't think anybody expected. But I think, yeah, they still got to build more cohesion and rhythm with what they got. They got to hope Mikal gets out of the slump. But overall, it's trending in a right direction now. The East is starting to distance itself a little bit. Like you said, Cleveland and Boston aren't going anywhere. Orlando's been on a hot streak. Milwaukee seemingly turned their season around. Atlanta, I don't really know what to make of. But, yeah, we're starting to get a little bit more clarity in the Eastern Conference right now.
Yeah, you're kind of getting the idea of which teams are sitting in the perfect spot. Of course, we know Milwaukee got off to that awful start to start the season, and they're starting to turn things around now with Giannis and Damian Lillard and company. And for the Knicks, we've kind of seen, this the up and down. Of course, Mikal Bridges not putting up the numbers that we expected out of him, and it was kind of understandable because of what the lineup was going to be for the Knicks with this whole, guard forward, and then you have your center and OG Anunoby playing at the 4. So it was kind of just about trying to figure out who fits their role with this team. So that's kind of the point I was getting to with this. And when talking about Karl-Anthony-Towns and Jalen Brunson, of course, Towns, he's averaging the second most points with a career best 13 rebounds per game. And Jalen Brunson right now, he's averaging just over 25 a game, close to 8 assists, just over 40% shooting from 3, and almost 50% shooting for his field goal percentage. So those are stats you want to see out of your stars, especially early in the season, and it's going to make a difference in the long run, once we get up to the All-Star break and, the trade deadline and all that comes around, because that's going to elevate this team in a lot of different ways that can improve upon what they did last year, of course, with all that success, but, improving the roster this year and, losing pieces, it is a somewhat of an improvement, of course, bringing in Towns, but still, nonetheless, it's been a strong year for those two guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're looking at all-star rosters, I know it might be a tad early to think who's going to be in the all-star game. You'd imagine Brunson's going to make it again. Cat will probably make it. I mean, Embiid's missed a lot of games, so he's probably not a shoo-in. Bam, I don't know. But I do think Cat and Brunson will be in the all-star game. The bench is kind of bad, which is what we expected because it's a pretty top-heavy roster as is. So I think at the deadline, they kind of got to make a trade for somebody who's available. I don't know where that trade is yet, but they are missing Hartenstein, who was kind of the glue guy. I know Hartenstein's been injured for OKC this year, which has kind of been a bummer for the Thunder, but you still miss him in New York. DiVincenzo, it's weird. Like, you miss having DiVincenzo and Hartenstein, but neither of them are necessarily lighting it up with their new team. So in a backwards kind of way, maybe you're not. But overall, yeah, Cat and Brunson have been what you'd expect. You want to get some more consistency from the rest of the starting five, but I do think that'll come with time. And if there's one way to look at it, you're only really 2 games out of a top 3 seed with all of these kind of lapses in the team. I feel like Boston and Cleveland are kind of uncatchable, even though it's pretty early in the season. I think it's going to be a fight between Orlando, Milwaukee, and the Knicks for who's going to get that 3 seed. I mean, I think Cleveland and Boston are they're your 1-2. I don't know who's 1 and who's 2 because there's only a game separating them, but you want to get a top 3 seed, in my opinion, even though as it's right now, you'd be matched up with Boston. I think Boston's more intimidating than Cleveland.
Yeah, I would say so too, of course, with them being the defending champions. But the Cavaliers was an absolute shocker this year. Nobody expected them to get off to that quick 15-0 start before losing to Boston eventually later on in the season, when they took their first loss. But with the Cavaliers, of course, that was a shock as well with their first-year head coach, Kenny Atkinson, former Brooklyn Nets head coach and former assistant with the Golden State Warriors, and him coming over there and, making the big changes that were necessary after J.B. Bickerstaff couldn't have the success that he wanted to have with the Cavaliers, not being able to get past the first or second round of the playoffs.
He's been better in Detroit, though. Detroit's 9-13, so improvement is improvement at the end of the day for the Pistons.
Especially after all the times that we shafted the Pistons with how bad they were last year. Of course, firing Monty Williams after they got him on the hefty major contract last year, and that turned out to be a disaster for the Pistons. But
an understatement of a disaster.
Yeah, kind of just dwindled down, and maybe it's improved. Maybe it is. You never know with this team. They're just trying to figure it out. But it's kind of an interesting story with that. But anyways, with the Knicks, like we said, they've won 6 of their last 8 games, and not many of them have been impressive. Of course, you mentioned the Utah game before. That was inexcusable. And the Dallas game, you had just Kyrie playing. Klay Thompson and Luka weren't even playing.
They weren't.
So that's another thing you got to look at as well, because Dallas has a deep bench, and when you can't stop their bench, you can't stop them at all. So that was a problem with those games. But outside of that, winning 6 of their last 8, improving themselves to what they're at now, which is 12-8 through the first 20 games after beating the Pelicans the other night. And, they're going to play Orlando tonight, a very tough team, a very competitive team, a very young, feisty team down there in Orlando. They got Banchero, of course. They have a lot of young guys on this roster, and we saw what they did in the playoffs last year. And you mentioned this before when they pushed the Cavaliers to 7 last year and how much of a fight they put up. They're a tough team to play against. They're good, and they have a really good head coach too, and Jamal Mosley, and we've seen how good they are. So it's going to be a tough task for the Knicks tonight.
Yeah, I know Paolo got injured earlier in the season. I don't believe he's back yet. I forget what the injury was, but I believe it was only 2-3 games into the season that Paolo got injured and he was going to miss a lot of time. But surprisingly, they've steadied the ship. They're 15-7, 3rd in the East. Franz Wagner's been very good, maybe an all-star this season. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was a good signing. Wendell Carter Jr. and Jalen Suggs. And even if Franz Wagner's brother Moritz Wagner has also been decent for them at times. Orlando, it's just, I wonder how good they can be with Paolo back in the lineup because he was looking really strong. I believe he dropped 50 before he went down. And I think the Knicks should win this game because you are at home. It's an NBA Cup game. You said they can clinch their spot in it with a win tonight. You're more healthy than the Magic, and you have a chance to get closer to them in the standings. I think they're going to win this game, and yeah, that's really about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a very tight game. I think with how competitive both of these teams play, and especially with the center matchups inside, it's going to be interesting to see who the Knicks put against Banchero. It's going to be interesting to see who the Magic put against Karl-Anthony-Towns and OG Anunoby and Josh Hart, of course. So those are going to be some interesting matchups to watch tonight. Of course, we'll keep you posted on all of that as well. And after the break, we'll talk a little bit more about the Knicks Magic game and a couple of the other games they got coming up on their schedule, which are Charlotte, Detroit, and Toronto. And then Matt Vargo will have his closing final words here before he embarks on his adventures outside of Susquehanna University. And we'll be back right after the break here on Season 3, Episode 5 of Empire State Hoops. We'll be right back.
Hey there, basketball fans. Are you ready to take your love for the game to a whole new level? Well, listen up. We've got something that will make your hoop dreams come true. Introducing Sport Pros USA, the ultimate destination for all your backyard sport court needs. Whether you're a diehard Knicks fan or just looking for some slam dunk fun with your family, Sport Pros USA has got you covered. Picture this. It's a sunny afternoon in New York, and you step out onto your very own custom-built backyard basketball court. The court where legends are born and memories are made. A court where you can unleash your inner baller and shoot hoops like your favorite Knicks players. But it's not just about basketball. It's about family, friends, and fun. Whether you're hosting a game of horse with your buddies or teaching your kids how to dribble and shoot, Sport Pros USA brings the magic of the game right to your doorstep. Our courts are more than just a place to play. They're a place to connect, bond, and create unforgettable moments. And with Sport Pros USA, you can have it all, right in your own backyard. We're not just building courts, we're building dreams. Dreams of buzzer beaters, comebacks, and endless laughter. So why wait? Give us a call at 877-HOOPS-NJ or visit sportprosusa.com today to start designing your very own backyard basketball court. Remember, at Sport Pros USA, we believe that every home deserves a court, and every family deserves the joy of playing together. So don't just watch the game, be a part of it.
And we are back here once again. This is Season 3, Episode number 5 of Empire State Hoops, our final episode of the semester. I am your host, Adam Rothschild, and alongside me for the final time ever on Empire State Hoops is Matt Vargo. And in the first half, we talked about what the Knicks have looked like so far this year. Like we said, 12-8 through the first 20 games. Towns and Brunson absolutely lighting it up. And we talked a little bit about the weak bench and what the Knicks could possibly do at the trade deadline in the near future coming up in February. And, of course, the Knicks have won 6 of their last 8 games after the 2 inexcusable losses against the Utah Jazz and Dallas Mavericks. Of course, the Mavericks, like we mentioned in that game, they were down Luka Doncic and Klay Thompson in that game. Only Kyrie Irving played, and the Mavericks bench pretty much lit up the Knicks in that game. But nonetheless, the Knicks, as reported by the New York Post, they're on pace to win 49 games this year. Of course, last season, 50-32 was the record. Looking to improve upon that and try to win above 50 games if they can. But like we said, with this next game against the Magic, they will clinch. This will help them advance to the quarterfinals in the in-season tournament, with this being an NBA Cup game tonight against a feisty Magic team, like we mentioned. But with these next few games they got coming up, pretty much against teams that are on the bottom tier of the Eastern Conference, the Charlotte Hornets. They beat them several days ago, of course, prior to the Pelicans game. They'll be playing them at home before playing Detroit and Toronto, which we'll get to in just a moment. So, playing against Charlotte, last time you beat them by a score, you got to think you want to beat them by more than that this time.
Yeah, especially considering that you're at home for this game. And Charlotte, they did start off pretty decently. LaMelo's had his moments, as well as Brandon Miller, but they're riding a 5-game losing streak at the time of this recording. And I believe they play the 76ers tonight before they play the Knicks. They're playing the Sixers at home. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be 6 in a row by the time they get to the Knicks. I think they will win the game pretty comfortably. I don't know what happened that first game. I know Charlotte, they're an interesting team, I think, but, I mean, come on. You got Brunson, you got Cat. I mean, LaMelo's really probably the third best player on the court, and it was only a 1-point win. It's still a win, but yeah, I think this is going to be a time where you actually get a good winning streak going, because you would think, because like you said, Knicks, Pistons, Raptors, you should win all 3. I believe the Raptors are last in the East. They're third. They're actually 13th in the East. Washington is the worst team in the East. They've lost 14 in a row, so they're halfway there to breaking the losing streak.
Poor Jordan Poole.
Is it really poor Jordan Poole? I think this is the kind of team he wants. He gets to shoot the ball all the time, get as many stats as he wants, and not win games. But yeah, they're only halfway there to breaking the Pistons record when Kuzma said, "Just don't be the team that ends the streak." So might be coming for him this time. And then even then afterwards, it's like Timberwolves, Pelicans on the road, 2 teams that aren't that great. Toronto again at home, and hey, Spurs are a little bit better than what we thought, and you're playing them on Christmas. That should be a fun game to watch. But this is a prime opportunity to get a lot of wins against teams that aren't necessarily ideal contenders in the East. So if you're the Knicks, I listed all those games upcoming. If you can go, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you can go like 6-1, 5-2 during those games, like you could be in pretty good shape, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, because they're going to have a lot more tougher games, in 2025 once they get to a lot of those tougher Western Conference opponents. Like they're going to play the Lakers, they're going to play the Clippers eventually, and they're going to have a lot of those teams going on those big West Coast road trips, and they're going to have to do a lot of that in the second half of the season, of course. And, of course, we talked about this with Mikal Bridges a lot, and he struggled, of course, in the game against Charlotte, and he got benched towards the end of the game. Then came back and bounced back with a 31-point performance against the Pelicans. So what is something specifically out of Mikal Bridges that we want to see in the second half of the season?
You would think that Mikal would be a lot better in this role compared to his Brooklyn role where he was the number one option. I mean, in New York, he is like the third option, I would say, third or fourth, which is what he was in Phoenix when they made the finals under Chris Paul and Devin Booker. But I kind of feel like basketball, for as much talent as you got, it's also a game that can get in your head. You get through a rough shooting slide, kind of dwindles your confidence a little bit, and then you kind of have to kind of rewire yourself to get your mojo back. And maybe Mikal's just on track to doing that, like you said, against the Pelicans. It was a good game, 31, and the Pelicans are just down bad right now. Everybody's injured. Zion's injured. It's tough sledding, but a good tune-up game to get your confidence back. And we'll see how it looks against Orlando and some of these weaker teams. But just kind of shoot your way out of the slump, in my opinion. Don't really think about it so much. Try to but also don't force up terrible shots. Don't try to ball hog your way to getting those good stats. Not like he will, but overall, just don't let it get in your head. That's what I'd say I'd have Mikal doing now. I think he's shooting a lot more threes than what you'd also really like. So also cut it down on the threes. I think he's only shooting 32%, which is not, he's a decent shooter, but try to attack the mid-range a lot more. That's what I recommend.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's going to improve his game a lot. Of course, we know, when he came to Brooklyn, it was a big adjustment coming over from Phoenix in the Kevin Durant trade. Had to figure things out. He got into a playoff series, and then the very next year they kind of just slumped and fell down in the bottom of the Eastern Conference.
Which is exactly what they want, trying to get Cooper Flag. They're not doing a good job of doing that right now, though.
But soon they'll try to, capture that flag if they can, of course, get Cooper Flag to the Brooklyn Nets, which we don't know if that's going to happen.
The Shams report said they're trying to get rid of everybody. They're not bad enough, so...
Yeah, that's just the problem with the Nets right now.
And also, is it weird to not have the Woj bombs anymore? It's now the Sham bomb, then, because we don't got Woj anymore.
Yeah, it's been an adjustment, not having Woj. It's like the Shams news, or just we haven't come up with a name of it yet, but just it's not the same anymore. It's a little it's different. With baseball we're used to it with Jeff Passan, but it's
with the NFL with Ian Rappaport, it's we don't have that now with Woj being gone.
Or Shefty, same thing with Adam Schefter, same thing, But yeah, it's been interesting with all of that, of course, and the Knicks are on a trajectory towards what could be another incredible season. We know last year was successful, but they want more success this year, and we'll see what happens with them in the second half of the year. Of course, like we mentioned before, they'll be playing Charlotte, Detroit, and Toronto after Orlando's game tonight, and we've talked a lot about the Pistons. We've shafted them too much, so there's not much to talk about there. Before we get to your final thoughts, Matt, we're going to talk a little bit about Toronto and what the Knicks can look forward to when they play on the road at Toronto against two of their former teammates, Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. What do you got?
Yeah, I think Toronto, it's one of those good old rebuilding years. They got a lot of assets for the guys that they traded. Quickley, I think he signed an extension over the offseason to stay in Toronto. I don't know about RJ. Obviously, they'll be motivated to try to beat their former team, especially it's not in MSG. They're at home, which could help them out. But I just don't see any possible way the Raptors get this done, because really outside of RJ and Quickley, can anybody else even name 3 other players on their roster? I can think of those two, Scotty Barnes.
I can't name another.
Grady Dick, that would be my second guy. And then for number 5, is Bruce Brown even there anymore? Is Bruce Brown still on the Raptors?
I don't even know if he's in the league anymore.
I gotta look that up. I'm gonna look at it real. I mean, hey, they beat the Heat. They beat the Heat 2 nights ago. So I don't know what the hell's going on in Miami, by the way. But they should be a lot better. But I'm actually looking. Yeah, I don't think Bruce Brown is even in the league anymore. How about that? He was a key contributor to a finals team, and now he's no longer on an NBA roster. If that is the case, no, okay, he is in Toronto. He's probably injured, or they're trying to load manage him to trade him somewhere. So he is on the Raptors now that I've looked it up. But goddamn, what a fall from grace.
Well, it's interesting you brought up Bruce Brown because that could be an option for the Knicks at the trade deadline. You want to improve your bench, bring in a guy like Bruce Brown. He could play in a 6-man role or do something like that. That's another option to have something like that. So that could be.
And he thrived in that role with Denver when they won the title in 2023.
Exactly, yeah. So that's the point why, a guy like Bruce Brown will be a good guy to bring in because the Knicks have assets they can trade, but, it's going to require giving up players that are in key roles right now. So that's the only thing.
You could maybe throw more picks at them per se.
Yeah.
Although they did trade a lot of those picks in the Mikal trade and the Cat trade, so I don't know really what else you can throw at them. So it's gonna be interesting to see how Leon Rose and the rest of the front office try to assess the situation and to try to not completely sell off the farm like the Suns did to just try to get their core. Because the Suns don't have any control over any of their picks until the 2030s. So you don't want to go that far off the deep end.
Yeah, I think Phoenix is just stuck in that spot and they can't really do anything with it. But for now here, we're going to close things out. And Matt, for you, this is your farewell tour. And
That's
I
correct.
just want to thank you for the opportunity with you joining on Empire State Hoops and what we've been able to do for the past year and a half now. And with not just this, but the success you've had here on campus and what you've been able to do with the play-by-play commentary, just doing everything, whether it's athletic communications or WQSU, you've been really inspiring to not just me, but to a lot of other people that work around us, and for everything that you've done. And, it's helped me out a lot too. And it's been awesome to work with you. And I wish you the best of luck in your success in the future because you do have a bright future, especially after what you just did, calling a Division III football game on ESPN Plus for Susquehanna when they beat Hobart on Saturday. So I'm sure if you want to dive in about that, you can as well. But that was, of course, awesome for you doing that and, just everything that you've been able to do here.
Well, that's a lot to unpack, Adam. I guess I'll start with the Hobart game. Yes, for those of you that aren't aware, Susquehanna University won their first playoff game in 33 years. They beat Hobart 42-35. So they're moving on to round number 3. At the time we're recording this, they're going to take on St. John's University in Minnesota. That'll be this Saturday, December 7th. Kickoff is at noon Central Time for Minnesota and 1 p.m. here because they're an hour behind us. So if you're listening to this and you got ESPN Plus, why not go check it out? Should be an interesting game. Go Riverhawks. But yeah, commentating that game at ESPN was a lot of fun. Glad that I got to really check that off my bucket list, something I still got to add to my resume. I've been updating that thing almost daily, getting ready for my departure in the next couple weeks. But thank you, Adam. That really meant a lot to me. I'm glad that I inspired not only you, but the next generation of other AthCom workers and WQSU DJs and sports media members in our department to really get involved on campus. It's something that I wish I had done much earlier on, so I'm proud that you guys are doing that yourself. Thank you for having the belief in me to try to forge my own path after Susquehanna. Nothing's lined up concretely outside of an internship with Perfect Game. I'll be doing statistician work and also kind of a scouting and production role with them, but that doesn't start till April, so I got to find kind of your typical day job to fill in the time until that begins. Also, maybe even keep that while that internship's ongoing because I'm not sure how the hours are working yet. But it's going to be interesting. I think it'll probably be around the summertime when I'll have to start looking for a more permanent position. A lot of places will probably be hiring on then because, the winter graduation period is kind of a weird one to really search for a job. But thank you, Adam. I'm glad I inspired not only you, but the next generation of SU sports media majors. And it's been a long time coming. And just thank you. I'm glad. I hope that I did not only the radio station, but AthCom the justice that it deserved. And hypothetically, It's the keys. You got the keys to the car now. Just don't crash it while I'm not around.
I do not plan on crashing that car at all. I will make sure it stays on the road and does what it has to do. And, of course, congratulations on that job, on that position that you have starting in the spring. And that is very exciting to look forward for you as well. And I'm sure it's going to lead to more amazing things in the future for you as well. And from here on the campus of Susquehanna University, it's been incredible to watch what you've been able to do with your success and the success that I've been able to have. And now I get to carry on that legacy here with athletic communications, with WQSU, and everything that we've learned, not just from ourselves, but from the professors that teach us everything and, give us an idea of what we want to achieve. And it really shows that they really care. And it's been incredible to, be on this campus and doing all the great things that we've done so far and that I've done so far and what you've been able to do and, moving on from there. So it's been a wild ride. And for you, Matt, it's on off campus you go. And next semester we will have a new co-host along my side. You will find out who that is in the spring once we come back in January. And that will be sorted for Matt Vargo's replacements here on Empire State Hoops when we return.
He's a good one. He's a good one. Believe me. I've met the guy. I've worked with him. He's a good guy.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's not like everything's going to crash and burn. He's in a lot of ways, I see a lot more potential in him than what I've ever been able to accomplish here.
Yes. And it will be very fun having him along my side and cannot wait to bring him here onto the show. And for the final time this semester, this episode of Empire State Hoops has been powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. So, the New York Knicks, 20 games through. We are nearing the halfway point here in the middle of the holiday season between Thanksgiving and Christmas. The Knicks got some up and down. They've had an up and down start to the year. They've figured things out. They're 12-8, looking to do damage in the Eastern Conference, and we'll find out in January. Once we resume play, we'll pretty much recap what has happened through much of December and into early January. We'll talk about that, of course, and the trade deadline once we're closer to it. And from here on Empire State Hoops, I'm Adam Rothschild. That's Matt Vargo for the final time, and I will see you in January. And Matt is your farewell.
Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope to see you around wherever I go next. Thank you guys so much for a fun ride.